Raise your hand if you remember your first real job, or even what was involved in doing that work. That's what I thought. It's kind of hard, isn't it? One of my first jobs was pretty mindless and well straightforward. One of the earliest jobs was to paint an old farmer's fence, 2 miles of black fence in the thick of summer. Not once, but twice. Yes, twice. Needless to say, I got really good at painting fence. If my memory serves me correctly, I got paid pretty well back then. I had no idea that the most valuable part of the entire experience was the conversations I had with the farmer that hired me originally. I shared with him one day that I loved using my hands. Mechanical things intrigued me. Working on cars? No. I had no idea how to start a personal project that large, mainly because of my lack of know-how. To this day, I remember him looking me in the eyes and telling me one thing. Well, that's easy to fix if you know how to read. It's as simple as picking up an owner's manual. I stared at him puzzled for a second. What? A manual? Later, in a time long before the library of Google and YouTube videos took over the world's how-to information, I found myself going into a parts store to buy my very first manual to fix a blown head gasket on my Toyota 4Runner. This is when the farmer's inspiration enlightened me. Manual in hand, I made a lot of mistakes, asked those in the know a lot of advice, but eventually, with the help of that manual, I fixed that truck. Fast forward several years, and I found myself tracking down every type of literature on Landcruisers. One thing is for sure, there's a huge expanse of it out there, which comes in your standard editions and your dictionary-sized factory shop manuals. Even with this material at your fingertips, sometimes a person willing to mentor you is where your new knowledge can be unlocked. And of course, attending class on the farm. I'm still studying the Combustion Engine 101 instruction manual. And believe me, I was worn out by page 3. But I pushed forward. And that's where this story begins. Armed with a year of new knowledge regarding how to revive an old machine from a newly acquired mentor, I challenged myself. I challenged myself to go out and help a friend get his old 1976 Toyota FJ55 Iron Pig back on the road for the very first time in who knows how long. Hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this week's episode, I have a special appearance of a 1976 FJ55. This is my buddy Glenn's truck, and let me tell you, it's probably one of the coolest FJ55s I've ever seen. It's from out west, and it shows. Every panel on this thing has some surface rust, but it's actually fairly solid. Today the plan is to try to get this thing to run and move. It does need an original carburetor, which we're going to go ahead and put on. We're not sure what's going on in the gas tank, so we might run it off just a gas tank itself, a little boat tank. See if we can get it to move, clean it up, start putting the lights back on. So we got a full day of working on this girl, and I'm super excited to see another one back on the road. I've showed this truck in previous videos, but I really actually wasn't able to dive into it too much because it was parked in the woods back there. So some of the stuff that it does not go for it is that the roof is kind of rusted out. Glenn has another roof from another parts truck that will be eventually put on this truck. If you remember from previous videos, we did go ahead and start pulling off the Holley carburetor that used to be on here. So all the stuff is intact in here and should be fine. Moving into the interior, again, this is a really cool truck because it's factory AC. So you can see that in here. I love this retro CB radio and how they had mounted it under here. Very clean. Dash is not super cracked. Everything in here is just on point. Or there's that factory AC stuff. Glenn has all the parts to bring this truck back to life. So we'll be able to get everything going the way we need to today. So some of the stuff that I brought with me today to get this truck going is we have some carburetor studs that will go into the manifold. We got a isolator plate, I got 2 of them. Glenn went ahead and bought new gaskets and some bolts for the actual studs, and I bought a coffee. That's really important. We have another fuel pump. We weren't sure if the one on that truck is stopped up, as well as a fuel line that is factory. So between all those things, we should be able to make some type of noise, and I'm really excited because this truck has been sitting in this lot for as long as I have been coming here. So I'm excited to actually hear it make some noise today. Let me show you guys something real quick. So after taking off the last carburetor, we went ahead and stuffed some cloth inside the intake. Look at all the stuff that's on the cloth that could have potentially fallen in there and then would have made starting this truck an interesting thing. So glad we put all that stuff in there because now we can just pull it away and go ahead and start getting that carburetor in there. This is our base plate gasket, which will go right under the isolator like that, and you can tell it's a little different shaped. This is going to be our carburetor. You can see the holes there. So that will go on top of the isolator plate. This extra gasket, this is a fuel pump gasket, if you're wondering. We're going to use our vacuum cut off 1000 right here. So there is linkage that needs to go on once the carburetor goes on, and the nuts for the studs. So this is the stuff here. In previous videos we went ahead and installed this after we cut up a truck. So let me show you exactly what that looks like. So this is the linkage stuff here. So it comes right out of the firewall. This plate right here needs to go on the 2 studs on the carburetor, right there. And then we put the bolts on top of that. This guy back here, which is this little guy right here, is gonna go to this little ball on the carburetor, and that's what actually makes the accelerator work. Hook that all up. We're just putting some gas in a little bottle. We got everything hooked up. We're gonna run it off this guy first before we run it off the tank because we're not sure what the tank is like. Everything else is hooked up. Got to put a battery on it and figure out how to get a key to work. One gas tank installed. one thing we might run into an issue with is that this line, which is a coolant line, is leaking. You can see that it's wet. So we might need to figure out how to either get a rubber hose for that, because I'm sure when we start that up, that's gonna go everywhere. But we do have our gas line all hooked up. That was kind of a pain. You gotta loop it behind this alternator bracket right here, comes up over and comes up into the carburetor. So we got to figure out how to get this key cylinder over here to work, because we don't have a key, and that's going to be probably a little bit of an issue. Got a good interstate on there. We're gonna get the terminals on there and she fires right up. Oh, hey, it's in gear. Hey, parking brake work? Yeah. Or perfect. Cranks. Ready? Good. I'm gonna hit the pedal when I get it going. So I think we get a W for that. We got the truck to run. We're still fighting it to get it to idle. So I think we're tracking down some vacuum leaks currently. And once that happens, I think we'll be able to move this old girl. So you can hear that there's gas in here. And we're gonna pull that plug and see what kind of gas comes out of here. Looks like the tank's in pretty good shape. Hope for good gas. Zero gas. It's kind of wild. Ahead and cleaned out this old girl. We've got all beautiful parts that we'll put her all back together. Got this all cleaned out. So it's surface rust on this truck, but even everything, like look at the filler neck, it's virtually perfect. So Glenn told me that this truck came from Eureka, California, so that explains why it just looks like this, and whoever had it really cared. Did a lot of cool stuff. That's putting some of this stuff in. I was able to pull out all the little trinkets that need to go back on the truck. From what I understand, when Glenn bought it in California, all these things were stripped already. Somebody had started restoration, so they were put in these buckets and stuff, but everything is just in excellent shape for this truck. I mean, even the rubbers and stuff and everything. Even look at these lenses, are just in excellent shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and start putting on some of the lights that were in the boxes. Just a little note for anybody that might be restoring one of these, that these lights are specific to side. So there's a little nub on the bottom here, as you can see, and that tells you what side it needs to go on. These also may look like FJ40 lights, but they are also very specific to the FJ55, as this concave on the light is not going to be the same on the 40 because the lights on the 40 sit lower on the fender. So when you're going to put that on there, you got to be able to check all that stuff and make sure that it fits all in. Spent the last little bit of time putting all the lights back in for the rear. All this stuff was inside. And we just put some gas in there because there was no gas. Had to put a new seal on the bolt under the tank to keep the gas in there. But other than that, everything's going back on. You want to press the brake lights? See if those work. Oh yeah, works great. Try this one more time here, and you clear? Yes? See if this thing will move. Give it some gas. I think that's a victory in any book. Truck's driving down the road. I think the carburetor probably needs to be rebuilt and a few other things, but it did move out of its spot. It's probably been sitting there for, I don't know, 3 years. That's a pretty cool victory. Glenn is still not back from his test drive. This is either a really good thing or a really bad thing. I hope the truck didn't stall out and they're just sitting out there. She make it? She do all right?
Yeah, it's not my aerator, it broke, so I was going to help him try to fix it.
I was like, dang it. The one time he went out, it died. that's a wrap on the one-day restoration. It's starting to rain and storm. We'll just have to finish up that rig next time. Hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, like and share these videos. It keeps me motivated, keep on helping people get their rigs back on the road. Cheers, and we'll see you next time.